Good day, everyone. I am Kian Enojo, and together with Geilvan Locson, we will report the lesson 4, Visual Control of Movement. So what is focal vision? So it is the visual system people use primarily to identify objects. It uses the center of the visual field, leads to conscious visual perception, and is degraded in dim lighting. It is the system that is the most familiar to us as a result of personal experience. Next, the focal vision and the orienting of attention. So focal vision has access to consciousness, so visual information handled by this system is processed through the information processing stages discussed in Chapter 2. So in one sense, focal vision is the lens we use to direct our attention to relevant environmental information. Clearly then, focal vision contributes to motor performance by helping us orient our attention to certain types of environmental information that are essential for our success. Next, we have the focal vision in the quiet eye phenomenon. Quiet eye. It is a pre-execution period of visual fixation according to Vickers 1996. So there are four characteristics of a quiet eye area, which is number one, a directing of attention to a critical location or target in the performance environment. Next, an onset that occurs prior to the intended movement. Next, a duration that is longer for elite performers than for those of lesser skill levels. Next, a high level of stability. So recent research examining the quiet eye phenomenon has substantiated Vicker's predictions and shown that performance visual fixations are fewer and longer, but cease earlier as the movement is being executed for highly skilled than for less skilled performers in closed skills such as basketball shooting, billiards, and small bore rifle shooting, as well as in open skills such as goaltending in ice hockey and defensive tactics. The results of all these studies suggest that superior performance in some closed and open skill situation is attributed in part to the performer's capability of achieving a fixation of the eye prior to movement execution. The ambient vision and movement control. So optical flow, the movement or continuous flow of patterns of light rays from the environment over a person's retina, allowing the person to detect motion, position, and timing. Optical flow or optic flow is a pattern of apparent motion of objects, surfaces, and edges in a visual scene caused by the relative motion between an observer and a scene. Optical flow can also be defined as distribution of apparent velocities of movement of brightness pattern in an image. Next, the stability and balance. Velocity of the movement through the environment. Direction of the movement relative to the position of fixed objects in the environment. Movement of environmental objects relative to the observer. And last, time until contact between the observer and an object in the environment. So, those are the pattern of optical flow that provides an observer with the following kinds of information about his or her movements.
So next, we have the figure 12. Optical flow information specifies the direction and speed of an observer's eye moving forward through an environment containing objects A and B, or moving past the objects located on the person's right side, which is the B. Next, we have the visual proprioception. So the term visual proprioception, suggested by D. and Lee of 1980, describes the type of sensory information that arises when vision, usually considered strictly a form of
exteroceptive information, provides performers with information about proprioception, the movement of their body in space. It is also a sensory information provided by the visual system about proprioceptive aspects of a person's movements. So here's the figure 3.13. Optical flows provides information about an approaching ball speed and direction when it's traveling directly toward the eye of A and at an angle that takes it to the left of the eye, which is B, of a fixed observer. So, a special case of visual proprioception is the involuntary avoidance response. We've all had this experience. An object suddenly hurtles directly toward our eyes. Our response is a nearly automatic blink of the eyes coupled with a jerk of the head to avoid being struck. Visual scientists refer to this as looming. Even a newborn baby shows this response when someone suddenly moves a hand directly toward the infant's face, even if the baby has never experienced being struck in face before. This suggests that the looming response is essentially inherited, rather than learned through experience. People probably have an innate capability of detecting particular patterns of optical flow that specify an impending threat. Fortunately, our nervous system generates an effective avoidance response to these patterns.
Time to contact information. The optical variable tau is determined from this rate of expansion and is proportional to the time remaining until contact. Mathematically, tau is equal to the size of retinal image at some moment divided by the rate of change of the image size in the moment. Lee and Aronson 1974 demonstrated that balance is strongly affected by the visual information presented to the observers. In their experiment, the participants stood in a special room surrounded by suspended walls that did not quite touch the floor. The walls could be moved to influence the participants' optical flow information while the floor remained fixed. Balance. Research has indicated that the role of vision in balance may be far greater than previously believed. You can demonstrate this for yourself by looking straight ahead at an object on the wall but paying attention to an object on your right. The toddler, an away movement of the walls causes the child to stumble forward, and a toward movement of the walls causes a rather ungraceful plop into a sitting position. Next, to the motor system, this means being out of balance and the sensation of falling the direction opposite that of a wall movement. The result was an automatic postural compensation in the same direction as wall movement. Such visually based compensations are far faster, with latencies of about 100 ms, than those requiring voluntary feedback processing by the focal visual system by Nasher and Bertos 1978. Some athletes use ambient vision and visual proprioception to coordinate their actions with environment events. Example, the gymnastic. Keep your eye on the ball. The role of optical flow variables in a balance can help us speculate about the answer to this question. It is probably important to hold the head in a constant position over the ball during a golf swing. The resulting adjustments are non-conscious and are very fast, far faster than those produced by the focal visual system. Vision in the conceptual model. The expanded conceptual model of motor performance, here including the pathways for focal and ambient vision, shown in Mannion. Next, visual dominance and visual capture. Visual dominance, the tendency for visual information to dominate information from the other senses during the process of perception, the most dominant sensory system. Next, visual capture. Visual capture, the tendency for visual information to attract a person's attention more easily than other forms of information, has the power to capture attention unavoidably. Next, open and close skill. Open skill, a skill performed in an environment that is unpredictable or in motion and that requires performers to adapt their movements in response to dynamic properties of the environment. Example, the soccer. Close skill. Close skill is skill performed in an environment that is predictable or stationary and that allows performers to plan their movements in advance. Example, golf course.